Just welcome everyone to the DeFi Raiders Dolomite AMA. My name is Zero X Hodl. I'm with the DeFi Raiders team, and I will be your guide through this today. Um, so, I want to kick us off and just go ahead and let the Dolomite team introduce themselves. Just one at a time. Corey, Adam, Bobo. Let's just have you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves, your backstory, and what brings you to crypto, and then we'll jump into the project a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you for having us on here. Just as a primer, I think Brandon might have been requesting to speak as well. He's on our team too. Um, all right, but yeah, going into our backgrounds then, I'm Corey Kaplan, one of the two co-founders of Dolomite. Um, Both my co-founder and I, Adam, we got started in crypto pretty early on. I was in 2015 building game modding software and started taking Bitcoin for payment after PayPal shut down that fun little business I had going back in college. 2013, Adam was building out some early altcoin miners, and both of us went to school at Lehigh University for a dual degree in computer science and business. But our overall entries primed us up pretty nicely for the Ethereum hype around 2017 when smart contracts and the EVM started to get more popular, and open finance, the precursor to DeFi, started to become more popular as well. We built out an early decentralized exchange called Dolomite using the same company, different product, but same product name, and continue to run that until about the middle of 2021, at which point we decided to spin that down to build the new version of Dolomite that we're really excited about to talk about today. So I'll hand the mic over to Adam to take it from there.
Well, you really covered my background pretty well, but yeah, as Corey said, I am the other co-founder of Dolomite. I got into crypto originally in 2013. Bitcoin hit $1,000 for the first time around that winter or fall, and programming forum I was on took interest in it, and so did I. And since then, just been in and out of the space, and Corey and I met freshman year of college and just enjoyed doing hackathons and side projects and building. And so it was only natural for us to build when we really got deeper into crypto into 2017. But yeah, we'll go more in depth into Dolomite after this, though. But I'll pass it over to you, Bobo.
Bobo is showing connecting on mine, so maybe Brandon, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Brandon. I do some of the operations with Dolomite, mainly the Galaxy campaigns and whatnot. I got involved in crypto in 2017. So I went to the same school as Adam and Corey. I was roommates with Corey for a while, and in 2017, he convinced me to buy my first ETH. I had no idea what I was getting into, no idea what it was, but Corey's super smart. I trust him. And then, fast forward a couple years ago, started to dive in a little deeper, learn what the technology is, learn why it's important, and ask Corey if there's any way I can help. And now I'm here. I don't know if Bobo's
Yeah,
back in here.
yeah, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Had some dad duties I had to take care of. I'm Bobo. I handle the growth and business development side for Dolomite. I've been in crypto since I'd say early 2016, late 2015. Um, Been around DeFi since since UniV or UniV zero, I guess. And I just have a passion for the technology, especially the stuff that Corey and Adam have been building. And I finance has just been like one of those things that I've always been like drawn to, and I wanted to prove to myself that that I could help scale a protocol in any sort of facet, and here I am doing that with Dolomite. Yeah, I seem so out of
Very cool. You
breath.
guys, yeah, you guys seem to have really, really early backgrounds in crypto, sounding like coming from college. It's actually like exactly the time frame that I came into it, like back in 2015, and just got excited about it and kind of dropped off. 2017 came back. So yeah, I'm excited to hear about where you guys have been and where you guys are going, because it sounds like you guys have been around with Dolomite for a while under the same name. So just give us a little background on the project and like how it's morphed through the last couple of years, and then just a little bit about where you guys are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our story with Dolomite is actually one of an accidental business per se. Um, Late 2017, we stumbled upon Loopring, which was an early DEX technology similar to what Uniswap is today, but with a big asterisk in that it also incorporated an order matching engine technology, a relayer, and other things that were pretty interesting at the time. And we saw their project and got rugged on one too many centralized exchanges and thought it was time to start being the change we wanted to see in the industry. So we started working with Loopring mainly on their bounties, putting our best foot forward, trying to incorporate any which way we could help the project out. And that eventually turned into them wanting to make a pre-seed investment into us back in 2018. So we used that to springboard our business forward and basically build out the first decentralized exchange on top of Loopring and one of the first overall decentralized exchanges in the industry. And like I said, ran that until about the middle of 2021, at which point we took a step back and realized that DeFi had changed so much since we got it started on the project. Like I said, it was still called Open Finance when we first got started on it. So our tech stack that we were building was already built on pretty old technology, even though it had only been a couple of years. And so many paradigm shifting things had happened with the emergence of liquidity mining, yield farming, interesting liquidity games of how you want to grow a protocol using token economics and things. And all that didn't really exist back then. So we saw a really important need pop up in the market for a money market protocol that was able to work with a wide variety of assets and a large number of them, especially as increasing complexity popped up and people would inherently relinquish control over their assets or some of the cool things their assets could do in order to borrow against them. So I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot more soon, but I'll use that as my tee up for future discussion.
Very cool. All right. Yeah, I did a little bit of research just to understand and like saw some really early stage videos from you guys, and it looks like you guys have come a long way from where you started, and I'm excited about the product personally. So let's get into that. Let's talk a little bit about what your product does today. What problems are you guys solving? And yeah, just give us an overview of how it works.
Absolutely. So coming to our platform from a 30,000 foot view, you might just look at it like it's another money market platform. But as you start to dive deeper into the assets we have on there and some of the things that we're building out and starting to otherwise make more apparent with the system, you start to really appreciate some of the things that are available on Dolomite that you can't find elsewhere. So first and foremost, for those that are familiar with the GMX ecosystem and GLP, GLP is a pretty complex ERC20 token. And there's plenty of things that it potentially does that you could look at it like it doesn't conform to the ERC20 standard. And certainly once you start to look at the rewards ecosystem that wraps around GLP, it gets that much more complex. So usually what happens for users that want to borrow against that asset is they'll deposit it into a protocol, and while the asset's on there, they don't have control over the ETH rewards that it accrues. They can't vest their ESGMX into GMX with their GLP, and they can't execute any full account transfers into or out of the system. And these are just examples that are very specific to the GMX rewards ecosystem, but there's a larger theme here of there's very specific things that happen with certain assets that are really cool. The community really loves it. They're all about it. But then as soon as you deposit it into a money market protocol to go take out a loan or to leverage up your exposure or whatever your strategy is, you lose those really cool things. So on Dolomite, when you deposit your GLP into our system, you're able to claim and compound your ETH rewards while your GLP is deposited. And speaking to the capital efficiency of our system, while you have that GLP deposited, you actually can open up as many isolated borrow positions as you'd like, where you can run leverage strategies, you can run hedging strategies, or just take out simple over-collateralized loans using a large number of collateral assets or borrowing a variety of assets against it. And that flexibility is really cool because while you're doing all that, you can actually vest your ESGMX into GMX using your GLP and continue to claim Ether rewards. Like basically, Dolomite is an extension of your wallet. So we offer all this really cool extended functionality where you can go ahead and execute these borrow positions, but you're actually using our site kind of like you would the native GMX DApp at the same time. So there's this really cool commingling happening with really cool borrowing features with not losing any of the cool stuff that's native to GLP. And this example is extendable to a large number of assets. Now, GLP is just one such example, but there's plenty of assets in DeFi that enable voting rights, have other liquidity games that they enable for users to participate in, and certainly new things that don't exist yet. In our system, we're very proud that it has the ability to adapt potentially to things that don't even exist yet because of its modularity.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I saw in there that got me interested because I actually personally haven't used the Dolomite protocol, but I am a GMX and GLP holder. Um, so I would love to hear like just on that core GLP product that you guys have, what sort of use cases are you guys seeing, or the core GMX product? How are people using it in the market in practice? Like, what are people doing with it? Are they leveraging it up or anything specific?
So the three use cases we've seen so far would be wallets coming to our site, connecting to our site through MetaMask, Ravi, or other wallets, and depositing their GLP into the system, and then they'll go ahead and leverage up their exposure by borrowing USDC and then looping it to get more GLP and therefore amplify the yield that they're getting. We've seen some more sophisticated players try to run delta neutral strategies where they'll borrow ETH and WBTC against their GLP position in order to minimize their price exposure to it while capturing the yield. And then I've also seen a couple of users take a really simplified approach of just they hold GLP and they want to go borrow USDC against it to go do something with it. I don't know, maybe pay rent or do another yield farming strategy, whatever it might be, and just use it for a very simple over collateralized loan. The use case we're also starting to explore, which will take time to come together because of the nature of the engineering behind it, is seeing other protocols or more deep level integrations where people will build smart contracts that actually hook into our system to execute these things in a more automatic way or in a way that conforms to a different system entirely. So our protocol is very flexible for not just end wallets coming to our site, but it's actually built extremely well for other protocols that want to build on top of it as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I saw you guys have a couple of different integrations right now. I think there was the Abracadabra integration and the Plutus. Do you guys have any other integrations planned right now that you want to share here, or just maybe some ideas of what could the future state could look like with integrations to your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of integrations in the pipeline right now. We're looking to work with Pendle soon with some of their PT assets, JonesDAO with JUSDC. We're looking at Camelot with some of their SP NFTs from their boosted LP token rewards, and the Umami token vaults that are offering delta neutral yield right now on native token deposits. So there's plenty of different use cases that we're looking to hook into. All of these that I've mentioned so far are native to the Arbitrum ecosystem. And hopefully the use case or the takeaway from this is that we're not necessarily picky with who we want to work with. As long as the protocol has built something that is secure from a smart contract development perspective, and we have an orderly way to process liquidations in case an account goes underwater, we want to work with it. And we don't want to necessarily show favoritism towards those sorts of things because we think it's our position to offer this as more of a public utility where people can come and go as they see fit, tap into our ecosystem as an extension of whatever DApp they're coming from, whether it's JonesDAO or Umami or other ones, and then can use it in order to springboard into new strategies and unlock capabilities they didn't have beforehand.
Super cool. Yeah, I really love the Arbitrum ecosystem. So I love to hear that you guys are working hard there. All the projects you named, again, holder of those. So excited to hear what you guys are doing around it. And yeah, like going off of just, it sounds like you guys are really closely tied to the Arbitrum ecosystem. Do you have any plans to go cross chain or expand to different chains, or are you guys really committed just to Arbitrum?
Right now, we're committed to Arbitrum, but we're identifying other chains that would be strong opportunities for us to move to as well. We love the Arbitrum ecosystem because of the lack of tribalism and the amount of innovation happening here. And we're starting to see that same early on feeling emerge on the Polygon ZK EVM. And we're looking at other potential chains as well to do the same playbook on there, but with particular protocols that are on that chain that might not be on Arbitrum or maybe are working on something different on these other networks. So as long as there's a strong opportunity for us to take this collaborative approach, we're all about it.
And we're not just looking to switch chains for the sake of it or expand to other chains for the sake of it. It's really about looking for where we could set up opportunities to, when we launch, have something happening right from the start. It's really about sort of an intelligent approach to how we expand.
Yeah, I hear that. I think a lot of projects go really far and wide without focusing on their core community. So I think that's a really good strategy. I would love to shift it a little bit into the technicals of how a couple things work in your platform. So I was reading the concept of virtual liquidity in your platform, and I guess this is one of the explain to me like I'm five. I don't fully follow how it works, so probably be great just to get like a really basic explanation, and then we can dig into any technical details about what the virtual liquidity is, what does it mean, what benefits does it have. So yeah, I'll kick it over to you guys.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll start off by saying that there's an old adage in computer science, and I think it's funny, but other people might look at it differently. But overall, it's this idea of once you have a problem that you can't fix or the best solution out there isn't necessarily good enough, if you add one more layer of abstraction or one more layer of virtualization to it, you can fix the problem. But looking at this instead of like the explain like I'm five, when you look at GLP as an asset or even PLV GLP on the system, what you do with the actual hard assets themselves, our system doesn't care about because once you deposit it into the system and we give you that Dolomite balance credit, that credit is virtual and you can use it any way you want to on our borrow page or other services on the site as we expand the service offering of Dolomite's protocol on our web application. So if you want to stake your PLV GLP in order to earn PLS rewards, or as I said earlier, take your GLP and convert it to vested GLP so you can convert your ES-GMX into GMX, you can do that and it won't change your overall balance in the protocol level at all. It'll still look at it like it's GLP or like it's PLV GLP. And taking this process a step further, let's say, for example, you deposit 10 GLP into the system and you take 5 of those GLP tokens to open up a borrow position. Most platforms that don't have this virtualization layer in place like Dolomite does might look at your assets like they're segregated, like in different accounts or different places. And instead, our system will still recognize the fact that you have 10 total GLP tokens deposited and therefore earning the ETH rewards, the yield on the total of 10, and can use the full 10 for participating in investing. So this is a very powerful concept that allows you to participate in native token voting, for example, rewards ecosystems, while using the assets in our protocol in as flexibly a way as possible. That doesn't force your hand to take a certain position or otherwise force you into a posture that you didn't want to have beforehand. So yeah, taking this process then like one step further with tokens that enable voting, for example, once we have some tokens listed on here that enable this at least, you'd be able to take the total of your balance that you deposited to go ahead and vote, while your tokens might be split apart between your Dolomite balance, your borrow balance, potentially on the trade page if you have any margin positions open. It wouldn't necessarily matter where those assets are scattered. You still have access to the hard assets with whatever specific things they enable in their own specific ecosystems.
Very good. Yeah, that the concept of virtual liquidity, I think, makes a lot of sense. Like after you explain it, so I'm glad to hear that. I would love to hear like, does that expose you guys to any different risk than other platformers? Anything you've identified around that?
So actually what it did is it opened up the doors for us to handle risk in a much more expressive way than what we've seen from other protocols. So this virtualization layer that we have built, especially when you combine it with our iteration of isolation mode, our isolation mode might share the same name as Aave's isolation mode, and there's certainly a lot of crossover, but there are certain things that we can enable with our system that the current iteration of Aave doesn't have at its disposal. So when you look at the overall risk of a protocol, you're mainly looking at two areas. You have economic risk when it comes to like changes in liquidity, what might happen under black swan conditions when there's liquidity crunches and things of that nature. And then you also have more technical driven risk. So all the money market protocols that are out there today have some degree of control in place for managing economic risk, whether it's changing collateralization ratios, health factors, supply caps, borrow caps, which assets you can and can't borrow against certain things. All those things are really important to establish strong economic pillars of security. But the other piece that I just mentioned, technical security, hasn't really been iterated on too much. And our virtualization layer mixed with isolation mode allows us to be one of the first ones to start tackling this problem. So when you look at assets that are very unique to ecosystems like Jones DAO's JUSDC or Umami's delta neutral vaults, they all have a mechanism in place to enable pausing of redemptions for different reasons. It could be related to risk or certain economic exploits that could happen under certain conditions. And our system has the ability to react to those ecosystems being paused in order to enable or disable certain features that you might be doing with those assets in our ecosystem. And because of this virtualization layer, the way it mixes in with isolation mode, we can actually cut off or turn off certain parts of the system while not impacting the users that have nothing to do with the assets that were just impacted by some technical driven thing that happened in a faraway ecosystem that this user had nothing to do with. So it allows this really extensive modularity that we can tap into. And over time, we envision this becoming a really important cornerstone of us establishing strong security so that even if something bad happens, we can isolate and mitigate the issue as much as possible from spreading to the rest of the system.
Very cool. I would love to hear. I know recently there was somewhat recently there was the Euler hack through like a flash loan, and I know you guys are able to take flash loans as well. So like, does the virtual liquidity, is that going to prevent something like that happening, or do you guys have another mechanism in place to avoid like exploits through flash loans and Oracle manipulations? So anything proprietary there?
So the normal like Oracle manipulation attacks, like we're subjected to just because of, or depending on which oracles we're using for certain things. So like our vanilla assets like ETH, USDC, WBTC, we're just using Chainlink oracles for that, and those tend to be as resistant as possible. And Chainlink's done an excellent job demonstrating a long track record of security and reliability in this regard. But when you look at like the Euler hack in particular, it's important to dive deeper to understand like what happened with the flash loan that really paved the way for this. Because flash loans by themselves are not necessarily problematic. They're actually really cool economic enablers of new strategies to be run without putting up upfront capital for things. So what actually happened with Euler, unfortunately, was new code got introduced into the system that essentially changed how some of the core math was being calculated for normalizing interest rate exchange rates. What I just said is definitely a mouthful, but the key takeaway was that they were able to introduce new code to the core system after it had already been audited sometime later into the future. So what we've done to mitigate this kind of issue is we architected Dolomite as basically like a two-step system. The first step, which we consider the base layer, is immutable, meaning that it cannot change. Once the contracts are deployed, that's it. We can't change the core system. We can only upgrade certain parameters or configuration parameters, but we can't actually change the core logic of how math functions or otherwise introduce new logic completely through an upgradable proxy contract, which tends to be the normal, like the usual area where we see these issues happen. The code works great originally. They introduce some feature down the line that shouldn't cause a problem, and sure enough, it ends up causing a problem. We don't have the ability to do that because our core part of the protocol is immutable. We cannot change it. The second step beyond there is what we call the modules layer, and this is where all the integrations that we're working on exist. So the modules layer talks to the core layer to essentially hook into the core protocol and enable all these really cool things. And the modules layer is able to sit in isolation from other modules, which allows us to also partition risk. So some of the modules might be upgradable if it calls for it, but we're able to take this very case-by-case approach of which contracts we want to be upgradable, where we can introduce new logic if need be, and which contracts we think should not be upgradable because we want to maintain trust and consistency with the ecosystem. What's really neat with the protocol that's designed this way, and this is part of the reason why, in my opinion, Uniswap v2 became so popular and exploded Uniswap's overall popularity, is Uniswap's core system was also immutable. It couldn't change. So this meant as a developer, you can read their code, understand it once, and then reuse it infinitely without having to worry about any of that core logic changing. As soon as you introduce, even if it's a less than 1% chance of that logic changing, so many things can go wrong. And as a developer, you have to take those into consideration. And we wanted to build our core protocol the exact same way that Uniswap did in this regard. Because like I said, I think it was a big enabler of its success, and other protocols wanted to build on top of it.
Sure, yeah, that's totally fair. And I think you guys are building a really solid base, like from everything that you're telling me. And I would love to hear like a little bit more about like which products in your system, in your ecosystem, are modules? Like, is that like the PLV GLP, or is it something else?
So we're going to be publishing an image soon onto our doc site that gives some different examples of what modules can be, but they're extremely generic by nature. It's everything ranging from the individual assets you just mentioned to the AMM module that we have in place right now, where you can trade with virtual liquidity between different users. We can introduce new modules in the future that enable us to trade from your Dolomite balance through Paraswap, for example, to tap into external liquidity to trade via flash loans. And by the way, flash loans in our system are free. There are no origination fees. So we can really enable some cool strategies to be built and cool integrations to be done with this module system in order to build things that really increase the network effects of Dolomite's use cases and potential for new strategies and new opportunities as these different Legos are combined together in interesting ways. So it's, to answer your question, it's potentially external integrations with other protocols like Paraswap and traders and whatnot. There's internal liquidity where we can actually enable people to trade between Dolomite balances using their virtual liquidity. There's asset integrations. We can even build financial instruments into the system, like options protocols and things like that into it, as long as those are tokenized in such a way that it's made to conform with the system. All these different things are possible, and it's really exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And you actually mentioned something that I wanted to hit on, so maybe we dive into that. I noticed you guys have spot markets, and for me, it was just showing ETH/USD, both spot and margin, actually. So maybe talk to us a little bit about what you guys have there, what your plans are going forward with trading on your platform.
Yeah, so as it stands right now, the trade page is more of like a technical proof of concept. It exists really to paint the image of what we can do with the protocol later on. So when you trade on that trade page right now, we only have ETH/USDC available because that's the only liquidity pool we have stood up. But you're able to trade between or with your Dolomite balance. So what that means is if you're holding ETH and you want to trade for USDC, you can do that for smaller amounts. I wouldn't recommend it for larger amounts right now because the liquidity is not great. Therefore, the execution isn't strong. But when it comes to being able to exchange between assets, that's actually extremely useful because under liquidity crunch scenarios, like if we call back to the USDC DPEG event, it was really tough to get a hold of USDT on chain because everyone was borrowing it in order to leverage up their exposure to USDC. But with Dolomite AMM integration internally, what we have built here, we would actually allow users or enable them to trade out of USDT so that they don't get faced with the same liquidity crunch scenario where they can't actually withdraw their USDT from the system. And this allows you to do things like fast exits or trade internally between things really easily.
Yeah, super, super cool. And I know on the Dolomite.io landing page, I saw you guys were talking about the ability to margin trade with using different assets as collateral. I think that's a super cool feature. I would love to hear like how if you guys want to share how that's going to work or when that's coming or just any information about that.
Yeah, so over time, we're looking to expand that trade feature to enable more assets, more liquidity, and be able to offer more advanced order types as well. So right now, it's just definitely in this earlier stage, and we're planning on expanding on it quite a bit. And speaking to that, we have this ZAP feature that's currently under audit, and it's going to be released initially on the borrow page, but shortly thereafter, we're looking to expand it to the trade page to enable things like pair trading, actually, where you can long any asset against any other asset using no US dollar notional value in the middle, which will make for some really interesting trading strategies and some really efficient ways to trade that weren't too feasible beforehand.
Yeah, totally. That I think there's another protocol that's out there trying to do that. They're in beta, and I've been waiting for that to come online because pair trading with no USD denomination in the middle, to me, has a ton of application. So I was excited to see that actually on your page. So I will definitely check that out once you guys get closer to it. So I was thinking of jumping over to the Galaxy program, but I would love to hear, is there anything else that you guys want to share about the protocol, how it works, or anything along those lines?
I think we touched on a lot of the really important aspects of the protocol.
I was going to say,
Oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Adam.
sorry. I was just going to say the one part we didn't really touch on in terms of the capital efficiency of the protocol is really what we could do with the LP tokens of people who are adding to a Dolomite LP. I don't know, Corey, did you want to go into that, or you want me to talk about it a bit?
No, take it away, please.
Sure. So one aspect of Dolomite is, and really taking advantage of the virtual liquidity layer that Corey was talking about earlier, is users that deposit to Dolomite immediately start earning through margin lending. But additionally, they could add those assets to a Dolomite liquidity pool, which, as we talked about right now, is really just ETH USDC. We'll be looking to grow it in the future. But for users who do that, they're earning through both the trading fees against that liquidity pool as well as their margin lending. Additionally, from there, we'll be expanding what you could do with these LP tokens. So, for example, adding them as an asset that can be borrowed, which means that users who add to an LP get to also earn lending fees from that LP token. And we would see some strategies of people going long short on the impermanent loss. Um, I, additionally, I think really that's one of the biggest aspects. I have one more in mind, but I totally just blanked on describing that. But yeah, it's really about the efficiency of the system that allows for you to earn while you're. Oh, of course, but by adding it as an asset there, not only do you earn from people borrowing against it, but you could also borrow against your LP token. So it means you could take assets, earn from margin lending, add to a liquidity pool, and earn from fees, then borrow against it and put it into something like PLV, GLP, and earn from that as well. So it's really about removing these roadblocks that exist, or not exactly roadblocks, but dead ends in the DeFi ecosystem where normally you would just park your assets and leave them there. Instead, now you could take them one level further, one step further and earn an additional whatever percent on top of that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
pretty much get to put you in the protocol / captain's chair when coming up with these different strategies. My favorite one so far that I always come back to is like the flywheel effect that you'll be able to get with certain LPs that we add.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could see a lot of different ways protocols would integrate to you guys to start taking on those strategies. And even I could actually see you guys turning into sort of I'm sure this is your goal, like a base layer, sort of like a curve or pendle where people start to actually build on top and have completely different protocols that have stemmed off of what you're doing. So really, really cool shit.
And that's
So
really what we see for the future of Dolomite is just becoming sort
yeah,
of a bedrock underneath a lot of other projects. And we try and make ourselves developer friendly for that reason.
cool. Yeah, I looked at your technical documentations. I'm not technical, but they looked very clear to me. So if anyone is from another protocol, definitely go check those out. They're very simple to go through. Um, so yeah, anything else along the lines of people building on top of your protocol? Like, do you guys have partnerships that you would like to share here? Any big names that you can drop yet?
I don't think there's anything that's solidified enough that I feel comfortable sharing right now without sending the wrong message. But it's something that we're actively pursuing, and because of the nature of these integrations taking time, with other engineers having to integrate it into their roadmap and whatnot, it's it takes time for us to get there. But I think it's something that we'll definitely start to see more of as we grow our liquidity and people start to acknowledge some of the security considerations we talked about earlier.
Awesome, very good. Yeah, well, we'll definitely be on the lookout for those integrations that are coming. So I would love to jump over to the Galaxy program, which seems like it's a community engagement sort of program. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like, what are you guys doing there? How can people get involved? What kind of perks do you get? Yeah, I'm sure people are interested to see.
Yeah, so the Galaxy stuff, a lot of us are all four of us are gamers or were gamers, and we played a lot of RPGs. Even in college, we played together back in the day. So what we were trying to do is bring a little bit of the gaming into Dolomite and make this more fun and not just so cookie cutter. But yeah, so Galaxy has this really great tool that allows us to create campaigns. We have one campaign that's currently up that's open at all times called Rock Climbing 101. So if you ever need any of the documents, any of the Discord location, Twitter, all of that, and you want to make sure you're looking at the right place, click on the right link, you can go straight there to that Galaxy campaign. That one will always be there, and you can always make sure you're going to the right spot. And then there's another campaign actually for listening to this AMA. So everyone who's listening on their mobile app will qualify for that. But that being said, we found a way to turn those campaigns and those oats into XP for the Discord. And it's a good way of measuring engagement, tracking, how long have people been around, what are they doing, what are the things that they like, what are the things that they don't like. And there's a few more things coming down the pipeline with that. Some more fun things in the gaming kind of way that I bounced off with Corey that I'm looking forward to hopefully putting through. I don't know if Adam, you want to talk a little bit more about the loyalty points part of it with Galaxy?
Yeah, well, sure. So overall, as you mentioned, it's really just a way to allow us to recognize the community members who are the most engaged. And as you mentioned, it's very much got this video game aspect to it. You attend these events, or soon it'll also involve, there'll be campaigns for completing tasks on Dolomite itself. You attend those, you complete these campaigns, you receive Dolomite oat that is worth a certain amount of XP. You get enough XP, you level up. And in our Discord, you get a nice little icon, little flare with that level, and access to exclusive channels on our Discord specifically for your level. For the higher level ones, sometimes we'll show some previews of features that we're working on as well. What we're looking to do, Galaxy just recently released a new loyalty point system, which is very, very similar to what we built out with the XP program, which we had built out before a lot of that, and we had to do a lot of it more custom, but looks like now it's really built into Galaxy. So we're looking to shift over to that soon, which will be nice. It'll show the loyalty points will match 1-to-1 with the XP that we would have in our system. And so you'd see the loyalty points / XP for any campaign. And it would also allow for a leaderboard to be displayed on the Galaxy site. So, we're really looking forward to that. And just not too long ago, we added a page to the Dolomite app itself that lets you track your campaigns and track your XP right on the Dolomite web app. So it's no longer just our custom Discord bot anymore, but it's going to be spread throughout our entire system.
Super cool. Yeah, and do you expect most of that to be done through, like, let's call it quest outside of the protocol, or do you see this really, like, in the future ending up being heavily maybe volume based, or just using certain features?
I'd say it breaks down into 3 different categories. One are more of the social campaigns. So one's like attending this AMA. Everyone here, if you go check our Twitter, there's the Galaxy campaign link there. If you've attended, you're already qualified. And it'll be a lot of those more real life, either in person or, virtually events like these. Then second to that would be more one-off campaigns. So we're working on a lot more custom campaigns for new integrations. So if we bring on a new asset, perhaps using that asset in some way will result in you getting some XP. And then the third category we see is more of these long-term tracks that you could go on. So maybe for number of trades or length of time with position open, we have a few in the works that we're going to be lining up, and those will unlock XP as you reach higher numbers. When you reach 10 trades, 100, 1,000 trades, and so on. We're really overall, you mentioned being volume based. We're trying to make it so that it's accessible to all community members. We really see this as about finding active and involved community members, not as much as who could have the biggest wallet. It shouldn't be a pay to win system, but really one that can recognize just anyone who's involved, and even no matter what size wallet you have.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. I mean, I think it could be gamed sort of like we see. I mean, not that this is in reference to an airdrop, but I think anytime there's potentially incentives around doing something, people are going to game it as much as they possibly can. But speaking of games, I actually had one question. What RPGs did you guys play growing up? Because I bet a lot of people here play it as well, and would love to hear what you guys are into.
I remember in college when me and Corey were roommates, we used to play Destiny a lot. and coming back from class and playing that a lot.
Yeah, I've been playing RPGs for a long time. So the game I was talking about at the start of the call, that I was like hacking in college, was actually called MapleStory, which Nexon just announced recently, like building on top of polygons, um, for like building like a new MapleStory-esque game, which was really exciting for me. So I had the nostalgia hit immediately. Plus, spent a lot of time playing RuneScape and other RPGs as well. But yeah, RuneScape was a special one too.
Yeah, I had plenty of time in RuneScape and MapleStory, but more recently it's been a lot more single player focused ones since I don't have the time that I did in high school to really grind out any XP in it. So I don't know. Most recently, I've been putting a lot of hours into Cyberpunk 2077 when I have free time.
Yeah, mine was the Diablo series. I'm a little on the older side, and was it Final Fantasy for the Super Nintendo as well?
Cool. Sounds like a diverse range. I personally mostly grind out on RuneScape, but also played a little bit of MapleStory. Never got into Diablo, but I've got a couple of friends into that as well. So I know there's a lot of RuneScape references on crypto Twitter. I do feel like people that played RuneScape are just inherently good with economic things. It's just the nature of the how the game attracts people. So yeah, good to hear you guys have a background and all that, because I think it's super applicable in crypto and funny and overlooked, but really really true.
I'm still waiting actually for someone to make a like reskinned MetaMask that's basically like your RuneScape inventory. So you want to go trade, you go to the Grand Exchange, like it has like the same interface and all that. I think that
I
would do
would
super well.
I would love that.
That's like one of the best ideas I've heard in a while. um, yeah, cool. I love to hear all that. The last thing that I want to do is just open the floor for you guys to tell us about any upcoming releases, news, anything you want to announce here, anything exciting on the horizon. And then I would love to open it up to the whole group here to ask any questions to you guys, so we can just let it roll and see who has things for you guys to answer.
Yeah, so we have exciting integrations coming out soon. I mentioned some of them briefly when I went through like a long list of things that we were interested in. And importantly, we have some really important features that will just make the usefulness of Dolomite a lot better. So I spent some time talking about the Zap feature before that's currently being audited, as well as what we're calling version 1.5 of Dolomite. So it wasn't enough updates to consider it a full 2.0, and we're looking to deploy that on top of a new network soon. We'll be announcing that shortly once the audit results come back. But those two features alone, plus the integrations we're working on, are plenty of people to chew on, and it's going to be really exciting to expand the usefulness of Dolomite through all of this.
Yeah, I can't remember quite what depth we went into with the Zap feature, but in terms of what actual material benefit there will be, is right now if you want to go and leverage up on your GLP, for example, it involves borrowing, then withdrawing it from Dolomite, making your purchase, depositing Dolomite, re-adding it as collateral to your position. Way too many clicks, way too many steps. After we release this Zap feature, it's all going to be built into the borrow page. Just one click, you could borrow, redeposit as collateral after trading, in one click.
And you'll be able to go from any asset to any asset, provided that you don't break any risk um, risk mitigating parameters of the system. So if you want to go from Arbitrum's token to PLV GLP, you can do that. If you want to go from PLV GLP back to some other obscure asset or like Magic GLP, for example, you could do that as well.
Same for unwinding your position. If you wanted to use your collateral to pay off your loan, it'll pull it out, trade it, and pay off the loan atomically in one step.
Yeah, and especially with the complexity of what you guys are building, I think something like that is almost necessary to keep the UX really straightforward. So I think that's definitely a worthwhile build. Yeah. So anything else you guys want to bring up here, or should we open it to the floor and have people come up, ask any questions you have?
Nothing really. I would just recommend, anyone who's here, go claim your reward, your XP on Galaxy, and join us on Discord. But otherwise, we'd love to take any questions.
Something I just wanted to mention at least is if you joined the spaces from desktop, it won't register. One of the limitations of Twitter, unfortunately. So you have to be joined on mobile to get the experience credit.
All right. Thanks, guys. So yeah, anyone that has a question, raise your hand, request to be a speaker. I'm happy to bring you guys up and make this a little bit more interactive. I know there's at least one person out there that has a question.
And clearly, we just covered things too well.
Cool. All right, well, I'll give it another second. If anyone wants to come up, just hit the request button there. And yeah, just to kind of close it out. And again, anyone feel free to come up. Yeah, really appreciate you guys getting on with us and sharing what you guys have coming. I personally am really excited about your protocol. I saw it actually. I first came across it, I think, in Crypto Lynn's newsletter, and I hadn't seen it before. She just threw out like a list of different projects, and I started looking at it, and I was like, "Oh, this looks pretty cool." Like, kind of got a high level overview, and didn't really think much of it. And then this came up, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And then I got to actually really start digging in, and I'm impressed. And after talking to you guys seem like a super legit team. So definitely have a lot of confidence in where you're going. So I wish you guys all the best of luck in your work, and I can definitely tell you guys have a lot of potential. So just keep on in the good fight through all this.
Yeah, really appreciate that. And if you want to learn more, there's a lot of materials out there. As you already noted, our documentation's got plenty of information in there, although parts of it are still being filled out. Our white paper, our GitHub repositories are all public. There's nothing private that we're working on as of right now, so you can see all that work and get a deeper appreciation for things depending on what level you want to dive into it.
But overall, thanks for having us here. Those were some great questions, some great discussion. It really looks like you did your research, and we always appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm gonna just leave this open. I'll probably end it in 2 or 3 minutes. But if anyone wants to request to come up, the stage is open. Feel free. Don't be shy. And yeah, everyone have a great day if we don't come back.